But right now, what about you being involved in your work? Do you dread going back today, even though you had a long work weekend or a long weekend? Did you not get the rest you needed? Maybe you just wish every day could be a weekend. Are you burned out? How do you know it's burnout? What if it's just your diet needs to be changed? Well, let's find out. Dr. John Braccio joins us as always, Tuesday with Doc. Doc, welcome to your morning wake-ups. Good to have you again.
Well, Mike, always nice talking to you, my friend, and it's a good topic. It certainly is the perils, I call it, of work burnout from depression, because certainly persons that have burnout clearly have some phase of depression, some less than others, but clearly if you're burned out from work, you're clearly feeling depressed. So what this really is when you can't function effectively at work due to the symptoms of depression overpowering the person psychologically. It's sadly more common than we might think. I put them both together, the work burnout and depression, because persons with work burnout, as I was saying, certainly have some level of depression. And this happens, both the employer and the person suffering from this condition must be on the lookout for this, and really they have to try to control it as soon as possible. Let me just go through some symptoms. Not that a person has to have all of these, but these are the type of symptoms that are occurring when a person has work burnout and depression. Persistent, sad, and unhappy mood, feelings of hopelessness, pessimism, and helplessness, unusual increase in absences and poor work performance, excessive use of alcohol, prescription drugs, and or illegal substances, fatigue with low levels of energy, loss of interest in the usual daily activities. I mean, things you might normally have enjoyed, you just go blah now. Changes in eating habits, which can result in noticeable weight gain or loss, crying, high anxiety, sometimes with accompanying panic attacks, and those can be a nightmare. Tardiness or sleepiness resulting from sleep problems, irritability and anger issues resulting in conflicts with other persons, persistent physical symptoms of pain, including the common cold. They do not respond to typical medical treatment, unpredictable and unexplained bowel disturbances, headaches or stomach problems concentrating, becoming cynical with self, others, and life, feeling a lack of control, having nebulous job expectations in the work setting, dysfunctional works environment, and suicide ideation. These are a number of, but if you have few of these, they can be really overwhelming. And if you or the person you work for, if you're not self-employed, notice some of these symptoms, it's really important to seek out support from family, coworkers, clergy, employee assistance program if you have one where you work, and trained therapists. And if we just look at depression, Mike, it's really a major national concern. The National Institute of Mental Health estimates that young adults of 18 and older in 2020, that 21 million, now that's a pretty big number, adults have had at least one major depressive episode. This amounts to 8.9% of the population. If you add job burnout to the mix, you can see this is really troubling. So we all need to do our part to help persons be able to work without the psychologically and physically debilitating condition of work depression, burnout, because those that we know that have this condition, it's a pretty miserable way to live a life, because we really want people to wake up in the morning and go to job and be excited about it. At the minimum, go into it with the idea they're going to have a good day. And if you have this, you get work burnout, adding to it depression, you're going to be pretty overwhelmed in life.
And we're talking about like, when you go to the extreme of burnout and then you get into like suicidal thoughts, like you mentioned in here, and things like that. That's an extreme. I wonder how much the numbers would go up even just with people with just marginal problems. You know what I mean? I'm burned out. Yeah, I do. But you don't go to that extreme. I bet the numbers even go up higher.
Well, that's true. I mean, suicide, of course, would be that for the far end. And suicide ideation, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to kill yourself, but it means you're thinking, wouldn't it be better if I weren't around? Or you're having some negative thoughts. However, suicide certainly can be an outcome. There's no doubt. As a whole, though, we're talking about just kind of being overwhelmed, just You're fatigued, you can't sleep, you might be drinking too much, you could be eating too much, you have pains and aches that just really won't go away, you have unexplained bowel disturbances, headaches, stomach problems. These are the things that when they hit, they can be really pretty terrible. And if you work in a toxic work environment, if you work with people that don't get along, people that are trying to knife you in the back, or if you have a boss or someone who's just not realistic, and so it could be a nightmare. That's when you really do have to take a time out and really take a look at yourself, really say, is this really where I belong? Is this really what I want to do? Where is my future? Who am I? And these are hard decisions. What happens to a lot of people, they'll be in a job and they somehow, as hard as it is to believe, Mike, they won't really ask the question, maybe I ought to leave this job. Maybe I ought to be doing something else. They kind of think, I have to do this. I'm going to conquer this. I'm not going to be stopped. And I think those are great traits. Those are really great traits. But there are times where discretion is the better part of valor. And it is time to relook at things, or certainly meet, if you have an employer, to meet with the employer and just look at what are the job role, what's the description, what can you do, what can't you do, and go from there. These are really critical things, and there are just millions of people across the country that really are burned out, they're worn out, they're tired, they're dissatisfied, they may be having bad relationships at home. And if you want to be an effective parent, if you want to be an effective person, you want to be an effective individual as you forge forth in life, you really do have to enjoy what you're doing. You can't be living under the difficulties brought on by depression. Depression's a horrible condition. It's like having a 1,000
or at least you got to be able to
weight
tolerate what you're doing. You got to be able to tolerate it. I wonder, we hear a lot about the Great Resignation, and there's tons of jobs that are waiting to be filled. And I wonder how much of that is people are depressed or burned out from their job, and they've finally just chucked it, and they're like trying to figure things out now, and they don't want to just go from one job to the next. And I wonder how much of that plays into the work burnout.
I think it does, Mike. I think a lot of people are to the point where, and we don't want to say everybody. But those that we're talking about are clearly suffering, and there are times people just take a time out. They say, I'm just going to get away from everything for a bit. I'm going to sort out who I am, get my health back together, get my emotional health get back together, also with my physical health, and just take a look, try to sort out. Maybe seek out a counselor, maybe look for a mentor, maybe just do some real self-reflection and just figure, what is it that really, what would it take for me to get back into a functioning mode and be able to be my best? Because you're not going to be a good parent. You're not going to be a good spouse or partner. You're not going to, if you are depressed and you have work burnout, because you're going to be difficult. You're going to be a negative person. You're going to be irritable. You're going to be even fault-finding. So it's really going to make you not only miserable for yourself, but for everyone else. So it's really important to try to just get yourself rolling and going, because I've worked with plenty of people, many, many people over the years. I've done work with industry. I've done work with people, and you have the burnout. And I might add, a good employer, if you're working for someone, looks at this.
They'll have services
program. They will, and they will try to work with the person to do this. But not every place does have intuitive people working for this. So if you're one of those, take a time out, take a look, and sort out where your life is and move forward.
Go get you some help. You can find that. Actually, Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services, every Tuesday joins us with some really good information. Doc, I appreciate you as always, and hey, have a great day.
Going to do it, Mike. Always moving forward in life. That's what we try to do every day.
Attaboy. You betcha. We'll talk next week, all right? Sounds good. We're going to take this break and come back. More compelling talk radio, more compelling here on your morning wake up. WILS.